Hey guys, I think it's time I do a brief review of my Ginault Ocean Rover. I've had this watch since the beginning of April, about the first week of April, and I originally gave it 2 full weeks of straight wrist time, and then switched it intermittently over the next couple weeks, and most recently last week gave it about another week of full wrist time just to get a good impression again before doing the video of some things I like and love and some things I don't care for as much. There are tons of videos on this watch online, so I'll try not to repeat too much of what's been said because at this point there are many guys like myself who are giving their 2 cents to this watch. But like most other guys, I really love the watch. I think it wears incredibly well. It wears what I would imagine a Rolex to wear like. Size-wise, it's pretty spot on, as you know. It just disappears on my wrist throughout the day, and that's one of the things I like the best about it. You just don't even really realize it's there. It's just so comfortable. The dial is gorgeous. No anti-reflective coating, but that doesn't bother me. In most cases, if it's something glaring on this dial, you just give your wrist a little rotation and no problem there. As you can see, I did go for the date model. I really like the maxi indices on the no date, but every one of my watches, has a date on it, and I knew I would regret the decision if I went with the no date because I've gotten in such the habit of checking my watch daily for the date that if I didn't have it there, I knew I would be annoyed. But the smaller indices and hands haven't bothered me as much as I thought they would. It really looks proportional. It still looks good. I think they could be a little bit larger and still look great, but I think this is more the traditional style of the Rolex watches. So, the red second hand looks great. The gold sand lume really differentiates it. Just a really nice looking watch. The bezel is one of the things that I find slightly annoying, I guess you could say. Not that it doesn't work well. It's got, a great click to it. No problem there at all. And if you push it, it does rotate a little bit better. But like some other reviewers have said, I wish it would either lock and not turn unless it was being pressed, or just not have that springiness to it at all, because when it does both, it that little bit of play to me just gives it a little chintzy feeling to it. I would just wish it was a nice solid turning, clicking bezel. I know that spring lock was a feature of Rolex's past, but on this watch it doesn't do anything. I find I can turn it almost equally well whether I'm pushing it or not pushing it. So just having that little play to it just almost makes it feel a little cheap in that regard. And other than that, occasionally I'll get a squeak coming from the band somewhere, the bracelet. But I found that as I've worn it over the past few weeks, it's almost all but disappeared. Speaking of the bracelet, I know some have asked what the desk diver marks are looking like. I don't think it's any worse than any of my other watches. I find they stand out a little bit more when the watch is brand new because every little scratch and mark is new against the nice, shiny, smooth bracelet. There is a couple. None of these are deep, and how the light hits them makes them look a little worse than they are. I think there's one here on the top there's one there. I buy my watches to wear them. I try not to worry too much about any of those marks. I know they're going to happen. The sapphire glass is going to protect the front, which is where I'd be a little more concerned. I did recently pick up the Christopher Ward Trident Pro and liked that that had the ceramic bezel. So I know the aluminum bezel here is more traditional, but I did like the idea of the robustness of the ceramic. But either way, my previous watches were aluminum, and I mean, you'll see a few nicks and marks on them over time, but they've all held up really well. And I think that it just, tells the story of the watch. Like everybody else said, the machining, the polishing is top notch. I don't have many homages to compare this to. I did receive a Tisell Marine Diver in a trade deal, and this just blows it out of the water as far as fit and finish goes. To compare it to, here's the Tisell, and it is a very nice watch for the price point. For $220, this is a really nice watch here. But getting the, I think 55% off for doing a YouTube review. I mean, this being a watch that's supposedly in the $1,200 to $1,300 price bracket, I mean, really can't be compared in finish to a watch that sells for $220. But that kind of gives you an idea of what they look like side by side. On the Tisell, it does have great magnification of the date. I'll show you a little bit about this watch here. Polished case there on the side. The ceramic bezel I have on my Christopher Ward is matte. It's the vintage model, so I don't particularly care for the shininess of this ceramic bezel, which is probably why I like the Christopher Ward so much more. But I do like that it is ceramic, so it should be a nice, reliable daily wear watch for those who like this watch. For me, it's just a little too close to, I guess, Rolex territory, and I feel kind of hypocritical saying that, loving this watch so much. But this one doesn't have the Mercedes hands. This one has the patinaed lume, the red second hand. It just has a lot of different features put together, which I think sets it apart enough. Where when I wear this one, it just feels a little too much like a Rolex knockoff, I guess, to me. But that doesn't bother everybody. For what it is, it's a great watch. This one doesn't have the glide lock. This is one of the older models. It does have a diver's extension, which flips out there and flips back in, and that's in there pretty secure. I know Mark at the Average Bros just did a review on the Tisell, and he did compare it to the Ginault. At one point, I think his clasp was the glide lock clasp from them, and it kind of popped out a little easily, it seemed. This one's in there pretty firm. I never had any trouble having it stay in place. I know it's kind of a terrible wrist shot, but I do have 7¼ inch wrist. It is a good looking watch for the price point, but it's just not quite my taste. So there they are side by side. You can really tell the difference in quality there on the crown, the flower on the Ginault versus the T on the Tisell is just the finishing is just completely different there. This almost looks barely stamped in there versus a nice, almost kind of milled into the crown. But both nice watches, just two completely different price points. So I think, for what you're getting, the specs are widely known online here. The Miyota movement, sapphire glass, ceramic bezel, pretty decent bracelet for the price. It's comfortable. This one doesn't, pop out at all. It still clamps in there fairly securely. I mean, that's not going to come undone. I mean, that's tough to. This watch is tough to beat at $200. If that's what you're looking for in the style of watch, that's a nice watch. To wrap up the video, hopefully this doesn't ramble too long. This is my first one. I would like to do some more follow-ups comparing this watch to a couple others I own, just to give people an idea of size and look side by side, because I know when I'm shopping I look for a lot of side by side comparisons to give me an idea of what the watch looks like compared to something I may already own. But yeah, I really don't have anything bad to say. I think time-wise, I'm around plus 6 seconds a day. I do notice that when I miss a day, when I wear something else and I let this sit in my watch box, it does seem to jump up quite a bit, like maybe up to around 16 seconds or so. I don't have my timekeeping in front of me. But it does seem to deviate quite a bit off the wrist. But when I wear it consistently, it's right around 5 to 6, maybe 7 seconds fast a day. So it's pretty consistent. I would rather have it be fast than slow. I'd rather have it be a little closer to, I think it's rated time, which was, less than plus 1 second per day on the timesheet that Ginault gives you. But, that's not being worn. I think that's just being tested somewhere. So anyway, I'll put some more videos out, hopefully not too long. I'll compare this to my Christopher Ward Trident Pro Vintage. I'll also have some specs comparing dimensions, weight, things like that. So hopefully it gives some people out there an idea of what the watch really looks and feels like. One last thing to close, price point. I did, get 55% off of this watch for doing the video review. Ginault is no pressure. I mean, I've had this watch over 2 months now, and no one has ever asked me where my review's at. I did want to get, some good wrist time and own it for a while before I started talking about it. I think this one is $12.99 or $13.99 with the date. I do think that's a little steep in price, only because that's a significant amount of money, and when you're looking at those prices, there's a lot of other options you could be comparing it to that are not a homage. The Sin 104, the Oris Aquis, the Oris Diver 65, that are all in the $1,000 plus range. I think the sweet spot for this watch would be somewhere in the $800 to $1,000 range. I do think the quality would justify that price. It would make it more marketable to others. I don't know what Ginault's manufacturing costs are. I'm assuming that they're not losing money selling these at the discounted price. But who knows? They could just be breaking even. I don't know what type of profit margins they need to be able to stay in business. But those are my thoughts on price. I think it's a great watch. I think it's priced a little expensive, but they still have the review price available as far as I'm aware. So if you do like it, take advantage of that and get a great watch at an even better price. So that's it for now. I will post some more videos in the future, and sorry for rambling on about some things on this, but thanks for watching and have a great day.